Welcome to the presentation on Standard 5 Investment Analysis, Recommendations and Actions. So Standard 5A is diligence and reasonable basis. Exercise diligence, independence, thoroughness in analyzing investments, making investment recommendations and taking investment action. The second part of the standard is have a reasonable and adequate basis supported by research for analysis, recommendation or action. So the guidance on this standard. The most fundamental point is that you must make a reasonable effort to cover all relevant issues. This basically means that if you are making a buy recommendation on a stock, then you need to give a proper justification which includes rigorous research, interviews, etc. So that needs to be part of so you need to be able to clearly justify why it is that you are making a given recommendation. Using secondary or third party research, this is all right as long as you determine the appropriateness and soundness of the research. So you must review the assumptions and the independence of the analysis, and if you are convinced that the party providing third party research is doing a reasonable job, that their assumptions are valid, that they are independent and their rigor is acceptable, then you can use third party research. Another general point here is with regards to group work. So if you have an investment analysis group, then not everyone in the group has to agree, and there can be dissenting opinions as long as the final opinion provided by the group has a reasonable basis. So as long as the reasonable basis is there, individuals in the group can have different opinions. In terms of recommended procedures, the company, the investment firm should establish policy. So there should be a policy and there should be procedures for what exactly reasonable, so there should be a policy and procedures that define reasonable and adequate basis. So what exactly is reasonable? This needs to be defined at a company level. What sort of due diligence must be performed? To whatever extent possible, the company should define what due diligence means. At a company level, there should be a review and approval process for research work that is done, and there should be procedures to determine whether research, so does the research meet adequate basis or meet the adequate requirements. So earlier we mentioned that we need to define what adequate basis means, and then we need to determine whether the research being done meets the adequate basis requirement. And there should be measurable criteria for determining whether the research is good or not. Some applications of diligence and reasonable basis. Here again you must read the examples in the curriculum. You will see several examples related to sufficient due diligence. The sort of example you might see here is that if a given research analyst needs to make a recommendation on a stock and the recommendation is due tomorrow and he does not have much time, so what he does is a very high level analysis, and based on industry averages he makes a certain recommendation. So basically he is violating standard 5A because he has not performed sufficient due diligence. Or more specifically, let's say that in order to make the recommendation he should have interviewed several executives at the company and at competing companies, which he did not do. Hence there wasn't sufficient due diligence and standard 5A is violated. Developing reasonable basis. Here, if you are making a recommendation based on what a friend is recommending, let's say you have a lot of faith in your friend's recommendations, but you don't understand the basis for, you don't fully understand the basis for why a given recommendation is being made, then that again is a violation of 5A. Reliance on third-party research. So here, as we mentioned earlier, it's okay to rely on third-party research, but if you have not verified the rigor and the independence of the third-party research, then using it would be a violation of standard 5A. Moving on to standard 5B, communication with clients and prospective clients. There are three components to the standard. Let's go through them. Number one, disclose basic format and general principles of investment processes used to analyze investments, select securities and construct portfolios. Promptly disclose any changes that may materially affect those processes. Number two, use reasonable judgment in identifying which factors are important to investment analysis, recommendations or actions. Include those factors in communications with clients and prospective clients. And number three, distinguish between fact and opinion in presentation of investment analysis and investment recommendations. So in terms of guidance, one primary principle is that you must understand the sophistication level of your client. If your client is not very sophisticated, then explaining things to the client in terms of complex items such as covariance, correlation, standard deviations. So if your client does not understand this sort of terminology, then talking about these terms, when using such terms when you speak to him, is clearly a violation of the standard. So unless you have good reason to believe otherwise, just generally assume that your client is unsophisticated. Ideally, of course, you should spend time with the client, understand his level, and then communicate with the client based on his or her level. Another very important point is that you should distinguish between fact and opinion. So especially when you are dealing with unsophisticated clients, if you make a statement that is actually an opinion, stating it in a way that makes it sound like a fact will clearly be a violation of the standard. So for example, if in your opinion interest rates are going to go up and hence you expect bond prices to go down, you are recommending to your client that he should sell his existing corporate bonds. Telling the client, making a statement such as interest rates will go up and therefore you should sell bonds, almost sounds like a fact. What you should indicate is that in your opinion interest rates will go up, and hence you are recommending that the client sell some of his corporate bonds. So clearly in the way you speak, you need to distinguish between fact and opinion. Number four, whenever you are making a buy recommendation for a given security, the basic characteristics of the security should be explained to your client so he understands the risk and return profile of what he is getting into. Also, there needs to be a portfolio perspective. So when you are communicating with the client, you need to consider investments that are suitable for the portfolio of the client, and obviously the portfolio of the client needs to be based on the suitability of this portfolio for that client. This standard covers all sorts of communication. So written, oral, formal, informal, all communication with the client needs to generally keep these guidelines in mind. So in terms of recommended procedures, it is important that whatever interaction you have with your client you should maintain records. So what you are saying to the client, that information needs to be maintained. And what information you disclose and do not disclose depends from a client to client perspective. So as we just said, the level of sophistication can vary from client to client, and hence adjusting the information that you present to your client based on his level of sophistication is appropriate. And ideally in your record or in your data related to each client, you can specify the level of sophistication so that anybody from your firm who is communicating with that client knows the level at which one needs to communicate with this client. In terms of application, again, carefully go through the examples in the curriculum, but some general ideas. Sufficient disclosure of investment systems. This basically means that when you are selecting securities for your clients' portfolios, the process that you follow should be disclosed, and obviously you need to disclose the process. You might not be able to disclose every single detail, but you should disclose in a manner that the client understands how it is that you are selecting securities. Providing opinions as facts, this is clearly a violation. So you will see several questions on this topic where analyst is making a statement which is really his opinion, but he is expressing it as a fact. So you need to watch out for that. Specifically, you need to be looking for the sort of words that are used. Proper description of a security. If a client is advising, if you are advising a client to buy a security that has relatively high risk but possible return is also high, then this needs to be made very clear to your client. So high return, high risk, make this information very clear to your client. Notification of changes to investment process. So if you are using a given process, so if you have been selecting stocks based on low price to earnings ratios, and now you have made a slight change to the process where you are also, let's say, paying more attention to the book value per share, then this fundamental change in your process needs to be communicated to your clients. Standard 5C has to do with record retention. Develop and maintain appropriate records to support investment analysis, recommendations, actions, and other investment related communications with clients and prospective clients. So generally the responsibility for record retention is with the firm. However, as an investment advisor or a research analyst, you must also retain records that support your investment related decisions. So that's the core point here. You must retain any records that support your decisions, because if at a later point in time you need to justify why you made a certain recommendation, you should have the data to back this up. Again, study the examples in the curriculum, but you will see situations where it's important from where we tie together record retention and IPS, or investor policy statement objectives. So there is a good example where a client is unhappy because the returns over the last 3 years have been very low, but if you had maintained records properly, you could possibly show the client that you agreed to follow a certain benchmark, which was 50% invested in technology stocks, and this was signed off by you and your client. Then you can also show that over the last 2 years tech stocks have done very poorly. So if you have maintained sufficient records, then you can pacify your client by showing him that the performance is because of the fact that technology stocks have gone down, and you and the client agreed 2 years ago to follow a benchmark that had 50% technology stocks. So the fact that the return is low is understandable and justified. record retention and research process. Here again, whenever you make whatever research process you follow needs to be clearly documented, and any changes to the research process should also be documented. So again, the best way to deal with this is to go through the examples in the curriculum.